When I was a little boy, I heard old-timers say America's going to hell in a handbasket. I didn't know what a handbasket was, and I wasn't allowed to say hell, so I knew something wasn't good about this. Well, now that I'm an old-timer, I'd use different words, but I think it's going to be a rough ride in America for the poor and the middle classes for the foreseeable future. So now that I'm an old-timer, what I'd say to youth is, question authority, all authority. Help others when you can. Remember, power to the people. And whatever you do in your life, have a good time. When I thought about what to say this year, I tried to put myself out there in the audience with you. What would I want to hear about me, from me? I decided I'd want to hear about two things. How did I find out that Neal Cassady was my biological father? And am I anything like Neal Cassady? Well, I thought of a few things. Neal and I had some things in common, and others not so much. As I see it, here's some ways that we were different. My home environment growing up was too stable. Neal's was not near stable enough. Our brains worked differently. Neal was quick as greased lightning. I'm slow and deliberate as a 7-year itch. And there are some ways I think we were the same. We both like to be around people we admire. We both want to be recognized for our creativity. And we both have low regard for authority. And I thought of a couple ways we're the same, but also different. We both like cars. Neal drove fast and admiringly well. I crashed around a dozen cars, totaled more than half of them. We both have experience with the railroad. Neal worked as a brakeman for the railroad, and I crashed into a moving train. I want to read a couple of excerpts from my book. First, in high school and college, in addition to traditional ways of using my art skills, I tried a few unconventional techniques. By my senior year in high school, my paintings were recognized, and a landscape was selected for the student all-city Carter Art Show. This was a good thing, but using my talent to stay out of trouble was more important during my years in high school. For example, I needed to hide the fact that during my last year in high school, I ditched almost at will, which didn't do much for my grades. I solved that by using my art skills to forge excuses for the days I didn't go to school, and by altering the low grades on my report cards. At the University of Colorado, my major was fine arts, and I planned to be an art teacher. But I balked. A reputable career seemed mostly to be an unyielding routine, and it wouldn't be a lot of fun. What's more, there wasn't much about school I liked. Except for art classes, I thought of school just as something that had to be done. While I struggled to stay in school and pressed on toward the future, I sought distractions from responsibility. Making false IDs for sale was one of these. There were plenty of teenagers wanting to buy hard liquor, wine, and 6% beer before the law allowed. An altered driver's license was valuable, provided the changes were undetectable. With this in mind, I started a business, filling the niche. One day while working on a kid's license, I took my own altered driver's license from my wallet to compare the two. Scrutinizing it brought to mind the time I reluctantly showed my forged driver's license to a cop. I'd left 4 drinking buddies in my '51 Chevy while I went to the liquor store to buy our booze. I'd shown my phony ID at liquor stores many times, and as before, it wasn't questioned. I picked up my 6 bottles of Ariba wine, a case of Colt 45 malt liquor, and a pack of cigarettes, collected my change, and walked under the threshold of the open liquor store door. As soon as I stepped outside, I saw the police car parked behind mine, and a cop looking into my car through the open driver's side window. My impulse had been to run around the side of the building, to hide the booze, and then walk calmly to my car, as if I'd stopped at the liquor store to buy cigarettes. But I realized the cop could turn in my directions and see me slinking around the building with my arms loaded down with liquor. Instead, I walked straight to the car, quite unsure about what to do when I got there. "Looks like it's party time," the cop said when I reached the car. "Put the hooch down, give me your driver's license and vehicle registration." "Yes, sir." My mind raced between ideas. Should I hand him my unaltered duplicate driver's license that showed my true age? No, that would be really stupid. I'd be arrested for sure for purchasing being underage and purchasing alcohol. Should I tell the cop that the liquor store clerk sold me booze without asking for identification? No, too complicated. How many ways could that go wrong? I settled on the high-stakes gamble of showing him my forged license. "Here you are, sir." The cop took my license, vehicle registration, and walked back to the patrol car. I could see him talking on the two-way radio. When he came back to my car, he took a long, hard look at each of my friends before handing me my license and registration. "Be careful," he said in a soft but threatening tone of voice before walking back to the patrol car. I handed the wine and malt liquor to the guys in the back seat, then drove away. Once we were out of sight, everyone laughed and opened cans of malt liquor and a bottle of wine. Second excerpt. In 1964, my father Neal was driving the Merry Pranksters bus further toward the East Coast, and I was riding my thumb toward the West Coast. I'd ridden most of the day with a quiet man named Sam. It was the end of the ride. I got out of the car, thanked him, and walked to a nearby diner. It wasn't yet dusk when I got back on the road. It took nearly an hour before a middle-aged traveling salesman picked me up. Pete's Rambler station wagon was packed with inventory and samples of his trade. The rear floor and seat, as well as the storage area behind the seat, were stuffed full of cardboard boxes. Pete asked me lots of questions and told me more about his life than a 19-year-old might care to hear, seldom pausing between sentences. He filled in all the gaps with information on his family and his work. He was a nice man, but many hours of polite listening made me weary. I was glad to get out of Pete's car when we stopped for the night in Elko, Nevada. It was 11 p.m. I noticed that small-town cops didn't usually bother hitchhikers who were leaving their area, but thumbing a ride in the heart of town could be a cause for questioning and delay. I decided to walk to the outskirts of town before hitching a ride. I was nearing Midtown when I noticed a car on the shoulder of the road a few hundred feet ahead. It looked vacant. As I reached the driver's side door, a large man sat up from a prone position in the front seat. "Hi there, where are you going?" he asked in a matter-of-fact way. "To L.A.," I mumbled, caught off guard by his sudden appearance. "It's late. You can stay at my place. Have something to eat," the man said. "I'm not stopping," I replied. He kept on, but in a softer, friendlier tone. "I want to help you. You'd probably like a nice long shower. It gets cold at night. Wouldn't it feel good to get into a warm, comfortable bed together?" I told you, I'm not stopping. He said something else that I couldn't make out. I was already walking away. After I'd taken only a few steps, he stared at the car and slowly crept along the shoulder of the road. He's following very close. He kept his car even closer with the bright headlights shining on me for what seemed a damn long time. Then suddenly, pulled a U-turn, drove away. After that, though, I decided to get a room instead of going on. I found a run-down hotel in the older part of town. After signing the register and giving the slow-moving clerk $3, I walked up a long flight of squeaky stairs into a narrow second-floor hallway. There were 6 rooms and 1 bathroom on the floor. The ceiling was really high, at least 6 feet above the tops of the doors. Light in the hall came from bulbs that hung from intertwined electric wires in fixtureless sockets. Several sockets didn't have bulbs. And my room had a single bed, small nightstand with, of course, a Gideon Bible, and a cold water sink. The light was dim and the ceiling was high, just as in the hallway. Everything about the hotel reminded me of a flophouse I'd seen in a black and white movie. I washed my underwear and t-shirt with hand soap in the tiny sink before going to sleep. I was hitchhiking again by mid-morning, clothes still damp from the night before, but dried quickly in the hot desert sunshine.